Excel Chapter 6, pages 325 to 328. All right, creating formulas with external references. Ensure that you read that. Very, very important information, very pertinent to the business world, and referencing external worksheets from within the worksheet you're working on. Okay, just make sure you read that. All right, to create the external reference formula to total adult tickets for animal habitat. In the summary worksheet of the Totals 2013 workbook, so Totals 2013 is lit up and active, and I'm on the summary worksheet. Click in cell B6 right there, and then type the equal sign to start your formula. Step number 2 is in yellow, which means it's a warning. So as you create the formula, be sure to verify each external reference before going to the next step. Click anywhere in the New Mexico workbook. Remember that the first click makes it active. The second click is what will select the cell. You'll notice that nothing has gone into our formula over in our Totals 2013 workbook because that first click doesn't count. Click cell B6. This is the one that counts, don't miss. I'm kidding, if you did, you would just have to backspace or undo and do it over. The external reference to cell B6 in the summary worksheet of the New Mexico workbook. Okay, take a look at it. Because if you have to hand type one of those, you need to know the exact way to do it, and quite frankly, it's not that easy. Okay, so make sure that you compare what's in the textbook to what you've got up here. Okay, flip the page to page 326, step number 3, type a plus sign. Type a plus sign. Now, take a look at your plus sign. If you don't have a numeric keypad on the computer that you're working on, then you would have to use your shift and the equal sign. It's on the top of the equals. It's a shift, and it's right next to the backspace key. So plus. Now, when you type the plus, you'll notice it is popping right in up here where it should be, right? Okay, so let's keep going. Click anywhere in the Colorado workbook. Okay, that first click just makes it active. Click cell B6. Always look up and make sure that the correct cell reference is going into your formula. Plus. Step 5, click anywhere in the Utah workbook. Click cell B6 in the summary worksheet. Press your enter key. The formula with 3 external references is entered in the summary sheet in the Totals 2013 workbook. Step 6. In the Totals 2013 workbook, in the summary sheet, click cell B6. The complete formula appears in the formula bar, and the formula results appear in cell B6, showing that 346 adult tickets to animal habitat were sold in the 3 states, 116 in New Mexico, 105 in Utah, and 125 in Colorado. And you can run around, check each one of those, make sure your number is correct. If you don't have this right, you need to delete this formula and start these steps over and ensure that you get this correct. All right, if you have everything else set, let's move on to page 327 to create the remaining external reference formulas. In the Totals 2013 workbook, in the summary worksheet, click cell C6. Okay, there's C, there's 6. Always check that name box. Type an equals to begin the formula. Step 2, click the New Mexico workbook to make it active. Click cell C6. Type your plus sign. Are you kind of getting the habit here of what we're going to do? You've seen the pattern. Click the Colorado workbook. Click cell C6. Enter a plus sign. Click the Utah workbook. Click cell C6. And then press your enter key. Step number 5. In the Totals 2013 workbook, click cell C6 in the summary worksheet. Cell C6 displays 499, the total children's tickets sold to Animal Habitat. And the following formula appears in the formula bar. Check your formula against the textbook and make sure that it is correct. Next, you'll enter the external reference formulas in cell D6 and E6 to add the total sales from the adult and children's tickets to Animal Habitat. Use the same procedures in steps 1 through 4 to enter the formula in cell D6 in the summary worksheet. Alright, so Totals 2013, summary worksheet, D6. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to click your equals, right? Then, we're going to work it in the same order. It doesn't really matter as long as you keep track. I probably would have gone this one, this one, and this one, just so that I was kind of working in a clockwise motion to make sure I got them all. But the bottom line is you can develop whatever technique you like to make sure that you catch them all. Just make sure you get them all. So for ease, I am going to follow what the textbook says. So it would be the New Mexico worksheet first, then cell D6, plus, then the Colorado workbook, cell D6, plus, then the Utah workbook, cell D6, enter. The formula results displayed should be 17,300. All right, if it isn't, just delete this and try it again. If it's correct, let's go on to cell E6 and let's do the same thing with the total sales for the children. Always started out with an equal sign, of course. Again, working in the order that they were using. We're going to click the New Mexico worksheet, and then we're going to go to E6 plus Colorado worksheet, E6 plus Utah worksheet, E6, and enter. All right, once you have that formula complete, if you click on Totals 2013 worksheet in cell E6, you should be able to look at your formula and be able to read it and actually understand what it says. That's why we've done this so many times, so repetition, so you can read it and know what it says. And the value that's returned is 18,962. If you didn't get that right, you know what I'm going to say. Just hit delete in that cell and try the steps again. If you did get it right, let's move on. All right, to edit the external reference formulas to use mixed references, maximize the Totals 2013 workbook. Right here, center button, maximizes it, correct? All right, step number 2, in the summary worksheet, double click cell B6. That puts you into edit mode and displays the formula in the cell and not just up in the formula bar. Flip to page 328. Click in the first absolute reference in the formula. All right, first absolute reference in the formula is right there. Press the F4 key twice to change the absolute reference of B6 to the mixed reference absolute B relative 6. Okay, absolute B relative 6. Edit the other two absolute references in the formula to be mixed references with an absolute column reference and a relative row reference. There. And right there. And then always backing up and looking. Absolute B relative 6, absolute B relative 6, B relative 6. Okay, when you have it correct, press your enter key. The formula is updated to include mixed references, but the formula results are not affected. Cell B6 still displays 346, which is correct. Now, Edit the formulas in cells C6, D6, and E6 to change the absolute reference to the mixed reference absolute C relative 6, absolute D relative 6, absolute E relative 6. All right, so we're going to go to C6. Then you have your choice. You can double click and work right here, or you can work up in the formula bar. It makes no difference. Just go to the first absolute reference and press your F4 key 2 times until it's absolute C relative 6. Then always stop and read it and make sure that it's correct. And when it is, press your Enter key. And we're going to move across. And we're going to do that in all of the formulas. Always stopping, checking. One more. For twice. Absolute relative, absolute relative, absolute relative, and enter. Okay, so you changed all of those from absolute to mixed cell, where the column was absolute, but the row was relative. All right, let's move on. On page 328, to copy and paste the external reference formulas. You know what, before we go any farther, just reach up, humor me, and click that save icon, just in case. Okay, now, step number 1. Select the range B6 to E6. Then drag the fill handle to select the range B7 to E12. The formulas are copied to the range B7 to E12, and the formula's results appears in the cells. The Autofill Options button appears in the lower right corner of the selected range, but you do not need to use it. In cell B13, under the sum function, to add the range B6 to B12. A total of 2,035 adult tickets were sold for all theme parks. Copy the formula in cell B12 to the range C13 to E13. The totals are 1,855, 81,889, and 55,704. Step 4. Format the range B6 to C13 with the comma style and no decimal places. And then format the range D6 to E13 with the accounting number format and no decimal places. Format the range B12 to E12 with a bottom border, and then click cell A1 to deselect. There you go. Compare yours against the textbook, and when you have made any necessary corrections, reach up and hit save, and you're ready to move on to your next video.